Yeah, it's very upset.
Okay, everyone, it's 7 o'clock. My name is David Freese, the mayor of Tonganoxie. I'll call to order this February 20th, 2024 regular meeting of the Tonganoxie City Council. Ms. Huntington, would you note that I am present and call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Partridge?
Here.
Ms. McCutcheon?
Here.
Ms. Stevens?
Here.
Mr. Donnelly?
Here.
And Mr. Dale is absent.
Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Anyone have any additions, deletions, or questions about the meeting minutes? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed a second. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Is there, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 is the consent agenda where we review the bill payments for the previous period. Are there any questions about the bill payments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. McCutcheon. All in favor, say, need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to old business. We have the City of Tonganoxie logo presentation. George?
Yep, thanks, Mayor. I'll take that. I know too, Mayor, you usually inquire if anybody had signed up for public comment, and we hadn't had anybody outside of the regular agenda items. So the city logo, you'll recall, we hired a graphic artist named Grace Hallworth. She came and gave a presentation at the January 22nd meeting about a project that was started in November. The input, we had a review committee, and we advanced quite a few options. And then there was some discussion at that meeting, and as a result of that, there were some revisions and edits made. So we'll have 3 slides that show kind of the renditions of those edits based on some comments, and then a final slide that shows what we think are the 3 finalists, but we're open to any other discussion you may want to have. So the 2 that are here, you'll recall there was an option called line design. It was kind of the more basic. Some of the input we got there was to reimagine the power T and change some of the hills. Those are hills are represented at the bottom of that logo, and so those were the adjustments made. The next one, Lindsay, again, we introduced this overall shape that was intended to be kind of in character with a silo or a grain silo as opposed to kind of a typical oval shape. Again, staying with the typical Tonganoxie city color, which has been kind of that royal blue or a deep blue. But then again, incorporating the hills component to it. And then the last piece was adding sunrise or sunset, and I believe this was labeled sunset, and playing with some of those colors, reds and some of those vibrant colors. And so those were the renditions. And then based on the input we had through all of that, I think we are at the final 3 choices. And one is going to be the basic one we had. Thanks, Lindsay. That's okay. And that would be the one on the far right. It was one of the concepts that was introduced January 22nd. The far left then is a rendition of that with the sunset incorporated, and then the middle was a more realistic portrayal, I guess, of the hills that we wanted to include. And so, again, I know I went through that fairly quickly, but again, we're open to any comments, suggestions. Again, to give a little historical perspective, we're not really sure when the current city logo was designed. And over the years that I've been here, and then really some of the discussion I had with the mayor, it was, we want to take a look at either rebranding or re-imaging or reimagining the city logo. And of course, we painted the old one on the newest water tower. So, when that needs to be repainted in the next 15 or 20 years, we'll have the chance to update that. Now, again, as a reminder, this only impacts the city hall logo, stationary, public safety. Both police and fire have their own logos that they incorporate on decals as well as on their clothing and badges. And Public Works typically goes for a very simple pattern on their vehicles, although they may switch to this when the time comes as well. But again, happy to answer any other questions or hear any additional discussion or hear if you have a favorite of these three.
Council, what do you think?
I like the middle one for its simplicity. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I like the middle one also. The other ones are interesting looking, but they might imply waves. And since we're in Kansas, like water waves. And since we're in Kansas, it might be also fewer colors. It's like if thinking of getting things printed in the past, like how many different colors are in it, that type of thing. It might be more straightforward. I'm just thrilled that we're getting a new logo. So it's good news all the way around. Really, all of them are great, but I think the middle one is a little more representative of our terrain here.
Jen, Chris?
Fine, I mean, really, all of them are good.
I prefer the middle, too.
Number 2?
Yeah, middle one.
Okay. I think we'd go in that direction. Mr. Brakovich, what do you need from us? Anything?
Nope, I think I've got understanding there, and we can talk about how we want to unveil that the city has a new logo, but for this project, we'll be able to close it out with Ms. Hallworth and move forward. So thank you. I appreciate everyone's willingness to make comment on that.
All right, thank you.
Is it insane to add a sun to that one? Or is that weird?
We can.
Can we get the Teletubby logo and just
Yes.
have that, son?
Yes, dude, that's what I'm talking about.
Teletubby logo.
I mean, it is a T. Hello.
You might not have the funds.
What if we misspell it? Does that work?
All right. Moving on to new business, ordinance number 1518. Consider approval of rezone application for Wren and Estates, property generally located at Washington and East Streets. Mr. Brakovich?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So there's a lot more to this item for Wren Estates, but what we're focused on tonight is simply the rezoning. The city planning council or commission approved this item to move forward. There was a waiting period in case there's any protest associated with that, and there wasn't. When you look at the overall site, there's actually 2 parcels that are part of this proposal, and again, this is near the middle school, grade school campus. It's located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Washington and East Street. The bigger parcel, which is 6.6 acres approximately, is already zoned correctly. This is actually the 0.7 acre property that's on the hard corner that the rezoning would need to apply to. As far as the project goes, we're still in discussions with the developer, and I think I see his representative is here tonight, should you have any questions for them as well. But we're still working through details for a development agreement that would be required to move this project beyond the zoning and preliminary plat approvals that it's currently received. And so I think there was a hesitation, probably from both sides, to spend much more money that would be associated with the development agreement without knowing that the zoning was in place. And I certainly don't want to misrepresent the developer's position on that, but I think that that's probably accurate. From a staff perspective, we don't have any issues with the rezoning itself. But I'd be happy to answer any other questions, or Mr. Porter, if there was any other communication from Planning Commission that I might have missed on that. No.
Council, do you have any questions? Either,
I just have one, I mean, looking at the planning and zoning minute or agenda in the plat, where is it, Mark? What part is that? I'm not tracking with what part we're talking about. 0.7 acres of the whole thing.
Yes, so there's two parcels, we'll try to bring up the image, but so there you go. The bottom left corner is the 0.7, the 6.6 acres is the rest of the site.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all. Sorry, Mark, I make you get up. Sorry about that.
And if I could just jump into and make a quick clarification, we are not doing anything with the zoning of the rest of it that's already RSF. We're only rezoning the one, and I just, I noticed that in the title. So whenever we read the motion, just want to make sure that there is no need to, it's rezoning from RR to RSF.
any other questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 1518 to rezone the application for real estate's property generally located at Washington and East Streets, Tonganoxie, Kansas, from RR to RSF.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, consider approval of payment 2024 funding request from community organizations. Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we're coming before the City Council to do a quick recap of the 4 requests for funding from community organizations that were received last summer and were incorporated within the city's 2024 adopted budget. If you recall, we provide each of the organizations which is previously submitted, as well as put out a notice on the city website for opportunities for other organizations to reach out to the city. The City Council in 2022 developed a framework to evaluate these requests and sort of score them according to criteria. And again, those are incorporated in the summer months as we look ahead at the upcoming year's budget. The action we're here for you to consider tonight is to consider authorization of release of funds to these 4 organizations in the amount of $5,000 each, as requested originally last summer for their budgets. We've invited a representative from each of the 4 organizations to come to you tonight, give you a quick update on their plans for the use of those funds. And they also submitted letters of update, basically either assuring the council that the intended use remains the same, or giving other kind of contextual updates to you about what their activities look like for this year. Very much appreciate the willingness of these volunteers to submit that information and to work with city staff to give you the best picture we can of the information you'd like to see as you make these decisions on providing funding support. I'll invite the 3 people who are here tonight to each come up and have a moment to speak with you. And if you have any questions for staff, I'm also happy to make that response. But again, very happy that they're here tonight, and also just want to say staff have no other concerns or hesitations to approve these funding requests, and one motion if you'd prefer.
Yeah, I'm happy you're here tonight too. Also, these funds have been passed in our budget, so they're good to go. So
That's correct.
do we necessarily need to have a motion tonight, or do we just move forward and,
To authorize the release of the funds, we would, yes.
okay.
All the application packets and the summaries were excellent. So thank you all for your organizations for putting those together. We appreciate that as the council.
Do we want to make a motion, or do we want to hear from the groups?
I'm happy to make a motion to approve the funds for all 4 of the different projects as proposed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for all you do. I know what it takes to be a volunteer and
Just to come up here and put up with us.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A lot of volunteer work goes
Yeah.
into all that.
Definitely.
The town is better for it.
Moving on to item C, consider approval of donation of 2024 group water park with season pass for Genesis School Incorporation auction.
Yep, I can help that, Mayor. So this is a fairly routine item. We've seen this, I believe, nearly every year for the last 5 or 6 years, if not longer. It is, as the request states, it's part of their fundraising auction items. We, in the past, have had at least one other school in the, well, I think they're actually in Lawrence, have asked in the past. They've not requested that this year. So this is the lone request to move forward. Obviously, staff supports it, but we'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have about it.
Any questions, council? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to waive the $150 Tonganoxie Water Park Resident Group Season Pass fee and donate it to the Genesis Christian Academy for use at an upcoming annual silent auction.
Thanks, Ms. McCutcheon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item D, consider approval of 2024 Hunter Education Temporary License Agreement with the Recreation Commission. Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. This item, you'll recall, has been renewed annually since 2020, the first year that we entered into this agreement with the Rec Commission at the recommendation of our city attorney, Anna Kirstelich. She'd also updated the agreement for this year to include a few edits that cleaned it up in a sense. We reviewed that with the Rec Commission staff, and they are in support. As a reminder, they're utilizing our Public Works facility and Public Safety firing range near the Public Works facility on weekend dates with classes organized through the state of Kansas, but coordinated through the Rec Commission to provide safety instructions to mostly youth, but people of all ages who choose to participate in that program. We also typically have 2 events per year, and that's how the agreement reads. But we did have an update from Brad Eccles with the Rec Commission that they look to do 2 fall classes. And so we'll make that amendment with your permission in the motion tonight to the agreement text and have it executed by both parties. Staff have no other concerns. We've coordinated with our police chief and public works director and have no issues with previous year organization cleanup or any other activities by the organization. So we're happy to recommend approval of this, but would take any questions you have.
Any questions for staff, council? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion.
I'd make a motion, we authorize the city manager to execute the 2024 temporary license agreement with the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission for utilization of city facilities for Kansas Hunters Education Course.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item E is the city manager agenda. Mr. Brakovich, did you have anything?
No, I'm just going to turn over to Mr. Porter.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor. Our financial report for the month of January is a little abbreviated because we're only 1 month through the fiscal year, but we are off to a good start. We've completed a little more than 8% of the fiscal year. We have revenue and expenditure summaries for our major funds and our utility and capital funds shown on page 2 of the report, 2 and 3. We've also completed some of our first debt service obligation payments due February 1st, as well as in February completed the majority of our interest payments that are usually set as interest only for March 1st and principal and interest due September 1st. So those activities are underway for this fiscal year. We're also looking ahead at our ARPA funding reporting requirement, which is due in April of each year. We've completed our first report last April, actually last March, and later this month or early in March, we'll be completing our second annual report for those use of funds. We're also close to the closeout of our water tower project EDA grant. We have one last pay app requested from the contractor. They're currently advising that they have some concern with the project closeout process, somewhat tied, we believe, to liquidated damages, which were applied months ago and of which they've availed themselves of every opportunity and recourse in the contract and don't have any further options. But until they submit that last payout for the pay app 14 for that project, we don't really have any other mechanism to close the project out. We haven't had a lot of update about that, and we obviously could provide more detail if you have questions, but that's the latest communication we've had from that. The project is constructed, the water tower's functioning, and otherwise we are through the project process as a whole.
Is there a statute of limitations on that time frame on that contract?
There would be, I'm not exactly sure what it would be, but it wouldn't start counting until, it would be at least a year. It's probably 3,
Should we start?
but I can confirm.
Should we start the process of starting that limitations? Just a thought,
We have, one of my colleagues is a construction litigation expert and contract too. And he's been involved in this process, so I can talk with him about next steps.
It just seems to make sense that maybe they will not do anything. I don't know that they will or not. Well, I have no idea. But if the clock starts to tick to end, so they'll go away. Okay, thank you. Just a thought.
Thank you.
So just one point to make sure we're all tracking the same way. The project is complete. There is one component that they have to come back within a year's time frame, and we'll have to drain the water tower to re-inspect the paint that's on the inside of the tank. And there was a minor leak that seems to have resolved itself in one of the fittings there, and so they'll have to inspect that. So they still have that obligation as an outlier. But just again to clarify, we made them aware by every provision in terms of timeframes within the contract, and they've basically blew every deadline in the contract, not only the delivery of the product and their ability to state a claim or make a claim.
All right. Looking ahead, we've also completed 2 budget adjustments to the police equipment fund in January of 2024, and those are listed on the executive summary page as well. I'll move forward in the report to sales tax performance. I want to highlight that this early in the year, we're obviously not looking at much of a progress towards budget, but I also want to highlight that we're within a % margin of our budgeted, broken out by a month basis projections, and that you can see also that we're showing growth compared to the prior year in a month basis of a little more than $6,900 in our general fund sales tax receipts and a little more than $4,000 in our infrastructure sales tax fund receipts. So just want to highlight that positive point compared to last year, and we're within a very close margin on budget. We'll complete more detailed analysis of that in future financial reports, but just wanted to sort of show that as a new way of looking at that current year-to-date progress, and we'll continue to highlight that in future monthly reports. Looking ahead at our 2024 budget initiatives, we're early on in the year in that process, but we have checked off several significant items. And then I want to also highlight, looking ahead at 2025's budget, it's scary to think we're already at the point where we're contemplating that, but we're hard at work with some of our preliminary capital and personnel costs analysis, CMIP preparations with the efforts of Kent Heskett. We're looking at current year and upcoming year capital needs. And those will be discussed more with the City Council at our CMIP work session scheduled in May, but we'll also probably bring some highlights in the spring retreat and some other soon-to-come conversations that tie in closely to that. We're also going to be reaching out to the county appraiser for an update as those valuation estimates are created. I believe the estimates that taxpayers get are due in March, so we're not too far away from that. We'll try to get a sneak peek of that for the city council's awareness, so you know kind of what could be coming in terms of individual notices on the broader scale citywide. And finally, the last several pages of the report include a fund balance report through the end of January, expenditures broken out by fund and by subcategory within funds, and revenues broken out by fund and by subcategory within funds. We'll probably pick and choose some highlights in future financial reports and dive into unique sections or utility-specific revenues or expenses and try to give you a little bit more of a dive in on certain topics of interest. But in terms of this month's report, we're looking at a bigger, broader report and have no initial concerns to share with you all. But happy to take any questions you have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. That's a lot of work as usual. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Nope. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the city attorney agenda.
No items, Mayor.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem agenda.
No items tonight.
City council agenda. Nope. Nope. I know Mr. Partridge and I attended the Historical Society chili feed. That was delightful, as usual. We have an executive session for discussion of non-elected personnel at this point. Stevens, can you do that?
Sure. I move that the city council recess into executive session to discuss the city manager's annual review process pursuant to personnel matters of non-elected personnel, exception KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in the city council chamber at 7:49. The executive session will include the city attorney, city council, and assistant city manager.
Point of order, do you want to go 22 minutes?
I was going to do 15 minutes, sorry.
That clock's wrong. It's 7:28 right now.
Okay, we'll be gone for 15 minutes.
7:43?
7:43, yes, sorry about
All right, is
I'll
there a
second.
second?
that. Oh, second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge.
I know.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're in executive session. We are back in open session, and let the record show that no binding action was taken in the executive session. I have nothing more. Would be looking for a motion to approve, or a motion to dismiss, or,
I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
thank you.
Wait.
No, wait.
what?
Are you looking for a motion for the proposed, the recommended increase?
Oh, sorry. Didn't know we were doing that.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm got
And
ahead of myself.
I think in the past, we've done a percentage only.
Okay. I can make that motion. I make the motion that we increase the city, or we increase the city administrator's salary by a percentage of 11%.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. George, you've done a great job.
We're lucky to have you.
Very lucky to have you. With that, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Jake's not here.
So moved, though.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. See you in a couple weeks.